Ethan Cole never believed his 5-year-old daughter could predict the future. But when Luna pointed at a stranger in the park and declared, "Dad, marry her," he thought it was just another fantasy from a child's imagination. 3 weeks later, he discovered that woman was Vivian Hart, a billionaire CEO worth $2.3 billion who had never stayed in one city longer than 18 months. A single father drowning in grief. A woman who built an empire by refusing to need anyone. And a little girl who saw something neither of them could admit existed. If you want to see how an impossible wish became the most terrifying risk two broken people ever took, stay until the end. And when you're done, hit like and drop a comment with your city so I can see how far this story travels. The Sunday afternoon sunlight filtered through the oak trees at Riverside Park with that particular quality of late October, golden but already mourning the approach of winter. Ethan Cole sat on the same weathered bench he'd claimed every weekend for the past 8 months, watching his daughter chase pigeons with the determined focus only a 5-year-old could muster. Luna's pink jacket was already smudged with dirt. Her shoelaces had come untied 20 minutes ago. Ethan knew he should call her over to fix them, but the exhaustion sitting in his chest like a stone made even that small task feel monumental. Dad, look!" He looked. She'd managed to get within 3 feet of a particularly fat pigeon before it waddled away with offended dignity. "Almost got him," Ethan called back, forcing enthusiasm into his voice. Luna beamed at him, gap-toothed and radiant, before launching herself at another cluster of birds. Ethan pulled his phone from his jacket pocket. 3:47 p.m. They'd been here an hour and a half. Luna would need dinner soon. He'd planned spaghetti because it was easy and because she'd eat it without the negotiations that accompanied most vegetables. After dinner came bath time, then the elaborate bedtime routine that had somehow expanded from 1 story to 3 stories, plus a song plus exactly 4 minutes of back rubbing. The thought of it all made him want to lie down on the bench and sleep for a week. 32 years old and already this tired. Ethan wasn't sure when exactly he'd started measuring his life, in terms of tasks completed rather than moments enjoyed. But he suspected it had something to do with the funeral 3 years ago that had turned his entire world inside out. He shoved the phone back into his pocket and tried to focus on Luna. She deserved better than a father who was mentally meal planning while she played. "Dad, I'm thirsty." Ethan reached into the backpack at his feet and pulled out the pink water bottle covered in unicorn stickers. Luna bounded over, her curls bouncing with each step. She'd inherited her mother's hair, thick and dark and impossible to manage. Ethan had learned to braid it out of sheer necessity, though his attempts looked nothing like the neat plait Sarah used to create in under 2 minutes. He didn't let himself think about Sarah often. It didn't help. Luna grabbed the water bottle and drank sloppily, water dribbling down her chin. When she finished, she wiped her mouth with the back of her hand and looked past Ethan toward the walking path that curved around the playground. Her entire face changed. It was such a sudden shift that Ethan felt a spike of concern. Luna's eyes went wide, her mouth forming a small O of surprise, and she went completely still, which never happened unless she was sleeping or sick. "Luna, you okay? Boy." She didn't answer. She was staring at something behind him with an intensity that made the hair on the back of his neck prickle. Ethan turned. A woman was walking along the path about 30 feet away. Tall, maybe 5'9", moving with the kind of purposeful stride that suggested she had somewhere important to be and no time for delays. She wore a charcoal suit that probably cost more than Ethan's monthly rent, tailored so precisely it looked like it had been designed specifically for her body. Her dark hair was pulled back in a low bun, and even from this distance Ethan could see the sharp angles of her face. High cheekbones, defined jawline, the kind of bone structure that made people look twice. She wasn't looking at them. Wasn't looking at the playground at all. Her attention was fixed straight ahead, and she held her phone to her ear, speaking in a low voice Ethan couldn't hear. He glanced back at Luna, expecting her to have already moved on to the next distraction. Instead, she was still staring. Her small face had taken on an expression Ethan had never seen before, something almost like recognition, mixed with absolute certainty. "Luna, what?" "Dad?" Her voice came out quiet but firm. She looked up at Ethan with those enormous brown eyes that could convince him to do almost anything. "Marry her." Ethan blinked. "What?" Luna pointed directly at the woman in the charcoal suit who was about 40 feet away and walking farther with each second. "That lady. You should marry her." For a moment, Ethan genuinely wondered if he'd misheard. Sweetheart, we don't even know her. But you should marry her, Luna insisted, still pointing with the absolute confidence of someone stating an observable fact. She's perfect. The woman had nearly reached the curve in the path that would take her out of sight. She still hadn't looked their direction once. Ethan felt something uncomfortable twist in his chest. He gently pushed Luna's pointing hand down. Baby, we can't just... That's a stranger. We don't marry strangers. Jaji Ban. Why not? Because that's not how life works. Luna's face scrunched up in that particular way that meant she was about to argue, but the woman had already disappeared around the bend. Luna watched the empty path for another few seconds, then looked back at Ethan with an expression of profound disappointment. You should have talked to her, she said accusingly. Ethan rubbed his face with both hands. Luna, I can't just walk up to random women in the park and propose marriage. But she's the one. The one what? The one you're supposed to marry. There was something unnerving about the certainty in Luna's voice. She wasn't whining or pretending or playing make-believe. She stated it the same way she might observe that the sky was blue or that pigeons had wings. Ethan took a slow breath, trying to find patience he didn't currently possess. Sweetheart, that's very sweet, but Daddy's not looking to get married. You're lonely. The words hit him like a slap. Ethan stared at his daughter, who gazed back at him with the unsettling perception that sometimes made him forget she was only 5 years old. I'm not lonely, he said, though his voice came out less convincing than he'd intended. I have you. You need a grown-up, Luna said matter-of-factly. Someone to talk to when I'm asleep. Ethan's throat tightened. He wanted to argue, to tell her she was wrong, that he was fine, that they were fine together, just the two of them. But the lie stuck in his throat like a fishbone. Instead, he pulled Luna into a hug, pressing his face against her wild curls. You're a very weird kid, you know that? She wrapped her small arms around his neck. I know. Can we get ice cream? It's almost dinner time. Please. Ease. Ethan knew he should say no. Knew that giving in to every request was terrible parenting, but the exhaustion was still there, and saying yes was easier than fighting. Fine, but just a small one. Luna's squeal of joy was worth the sugar rush he'd be dealing with later. They packed up the backpack and headed toward the ice cream cart near the park entrance. As they walked, Luna slipped her small hand into Ethan's, and he felt the familiar weight of responsibility settle over him like a physical thing. This was his life now. Playground visits and ice cream bribes and a daughter who occasionally said things that cut straight through all his carefully maintained defenses. He could live with that. He'd been living with it for 3 years. But as they stood in line at the ice cream cart, Ethan found himself glancing back toward the walking path where the woman in the charcoal suit had disappeared. He had no idea who she was, would probably never see her again, and Luna's bizarre declaration had been nothing more than a child's random fixation. Still, something about the encounter sat strangely in his mind. The way Luna had gone so still, the absolute conviction in her voice. Strawberry, Luna announced, pointing at the ice cream flavors displayed on the cart. Ethan ordered her a small strawberry cone and watched as she attacked it with the enthusiasm she brought to everything she enjoyed. Pink ice cream immediately smeared across her face. You're a mess, he said, pulling napkins from the dispenser. I know, Luna said happily through a mouthful of strawberry. They started the walk back to their car, which was parked 3 blocks away because Ethan had been too cheap to pay for closer parking. Luna skipped ahead, still working on her ice cream cone, seemingly having forgotten all about the mysterious woman. Ethan hadn't forgotten. He kept replaying the moment in his head, the way the woman had moved with such purpose, like she was operating on a completely different frequency than everyone else in the park. The expensive suit, the phone call that was apparently more important than noticing anything around her. Not his type, even if he had a type anymore. Which he didn't, because he'd stopped thinking about things like that approximately 3 years, 2 months, and 14 days ago, when Sarah's car had been T-boned by a truck running a red light, and Ethan's entire future had shattered into 1,000 pieces. He still hadn't figured out how to put back together. Dad, watch! Luna had climbed onto a low wall bordering someone's front garden and was now attempting to walk across it like a balance beam. Ethan moved closer, ready to catch her if she fell. She made it to the end and jumped down triumphantly. Did you see? I saw. Very impressive. I'm getting good at balancing. You are. They reached the car. A 12-year-old Honda Civic with a dent in the rear bumper and a check engine light that had been on for 6 months. Ethan had been meaning to take it to a mechanic, but kept finding reasons to postpone spending money he didn't really have. He buckled Luna into her car seat, wiping the remaining ice cream off her face with the napkins that were now completely insufficient for the task. She'd managed to get strawberry on her jacket, in her hair, and somehow on her left ear. How did you get ice cream on your ear? Luna giggled. I don't know. Ethan shook his head and finished buckling her in. As he closed the back door and walked around to the driver's side, his phone buzzed in his pocket. Text from his sister, Michelle. Still on for dinner Tuesday? He typed back, yeah, 6:30? Michelle's response came immediately. Perfect, bringing wine. You're bringing sanity. Ethan smiled despite himself. That's asking a lot. He slid into the driver's seat and started the car, which coughed twice before the engine turned over. The check engine light glowed cheerfully from the dashboard. Dad? Yeah, baby? Do you think we'll see her again? Oh. Ethan glanced in the rearview mirror. Luna was staring out the window with that same distant, thoughtful expression she'd worn in the park. See who? The pretty lady. The one you're going to marry. Something cold slithered down Ethan's spine. Luna, I'm not going to marry anyone. I already told you that. Yes, you are, Luna said with perfect confidence. I know you are. How could you possibly know that? Luna met his eyes in the mirror. I just do. Ethan wanted to argue, wanted to explain that the world didn't work the way she thought it did, that you couldn't just point at strangers and decide they were meant to be part of your life. But Luna had already looked away, her attention caught by something outside the window, and Ethan was too tired to push the conversation further. He pulled out of the parking space and headed toward home, trying to ignore the unease settling in his stomach. The apartment was exactly as he'd left it, which was to say, a disaster. Ethan unlocked the door and immediately spotted the breakfast dishes still sitting in the sink, the pile of unfolded laundry on the couch, and the collection of Luna's toys scattered across the living room floor like casualties of a small war. He'd meant to clean up before they left for the park. He'd meant to do a lot of things. Luna kicked off her shoes in the entryway, adding them to the pile of footwear that Ethan kept meaning to organize into the shoe rack he'd bought 3 months ago and still hadn't assembled. I swear you, can I watch cartoons? 30 minutes, Ethan said. Then you need to play quietly while I make dinner. Okay, ocho. Luna bounced toward the living room, shoving aside a stuffed elephant to make room on the couch. Ethan grabbed the remote and turned on the TV, navigating to the streaming service that had become the most reliable babysitter in his parenting arsenal. He knew he should limit screen time, knew he should engage Luna in educational activities and creative play, but right now he needed 30 minutes to salvage dinner and maybe, if he was lucky, throw the dishes into the dishwasher. The apartment was small, a 2-bedroom on the 3rd floor of a building that had been charming when Ethan and Sarah had first moved in and was now just old. The rent had increased twice in 3 years, which was part of why Ethan's check engine light remained ignored and why he bought the cheapest coffee at the grocery store instead of stopping at cafes. He moved into the kitchen and stared at the dishes in the sink. Breakfast felt like it had happened 3 days ago instead of this morning. The exhaustion was back, heavier now, pressing down on his shoulders and making even the simple act of turning on the faucet feel overwhelming. Ethan braced his hands on the counter and took a slow breath. 3 years. He'd been doing this for 3 years. And somehow it never got easier. The apartment still held traces of Sarah everywhere. The coffee mug she'd loved that Ethan couldn't bring himself to use or throw away, the framed photos on the walls that he'd stopped really seeing but couldn't take down, the organizational system she'd implemented that had slowly fallen apart without her there to maintain them. He'd tried dating once, about a year after the funeral. His sister had insisted, had set him up with a friend who was nice and pretty and had seemed genuinely interested. The date had been a disaster. Ethan had spent the entire dinner comparing her to Sarah, feeling guilty about comparing her to Sarah, and then feeling guilty about feeling guilty. He'd gone home early, paid the babysitter, and never called the woman again. Michelle hadn't suggested any more setups after that. From the living room came the cheerful sounds of whatever cartoon Luna had chosen, punctuated by her occasional laughter. The sound made Ethan's chest ache in a way that was both painful and necessary. At least he'd gotten one thing right. He turned on the faucet and started washing dishes, falling into the meditative rhythm of soap and water and the systematic elimination of breakfast evidence. By the time he finished, Luna's 30 minutes were almost up. Ethan dried his hands and moved to the refrigerator to assess dinner options. He'd planned spaghetti, but now he was looking at the ingredients. He realized he was out of pasta sauce. "Damn it," he muttered. "That's a bad word," Luna called from the living room. "Sorry." Ethan closed the refrigerator and ran through his options. He could order delivery, expensive. He could run to the store, time-consuming and required getting Luna back into shoes in the car. Or he could improvise something from whatever random ingredients were currently living in his cabinets. He chose option 3. 20 minutes later, he'd created what could generously be described as a pasta dish with butter, garlic, and frozen vegetables. It wasn't going to win any culinary awards, but it was edible and contained at least one food group. "Luna, dinner!" She appeared in the kitchen doorway, her hair somehow even messier than it had been at the park. "What is it?" "Pasta, boss." Luna climbed into her chair at the small kitchen table and examined the bowl Ethan placed in front of her with deep suspicion. "It looks weird." "It tastes fine." "Where's the red sauce?" "We're out of red sauce. This is garlic butter sauce." Luna poked at a piece of broccoli with her fork. "I don't like garlic butter sauce." Ethan sat down across from her with his own bowl. "You've never had garlic butter sauce. How do you know you don't like it?" "I just know." "Well, you're going to try it anyway." Luna's face scrunched up in preparation for an argument, but Ethan fixed her with his best dad look, the one that meant he was too tired to negotiate and she should just eat the damn pasta. She took a tiny bite, chewed dramatically, and swallowed with the expression of someone being forced to consume poison. "See? Not dead," Ethan said. "It's okay," Luna admitted reluctantly. They ate in silence for a few minutes. Ethan's mind wandered back to the park, to Luna's strange declaration, to the woman in the charcoal suit who had walked past without knowing she'd become the subject of a 5-year-old's matchmaking scheme. "Dad? Why don't you have a girlfriend?" Ethan nearly choked on his pasta. "Where's this coming from?" "Emma's dad has a girlfriend. She brings Emma cookies." "That's nice for Emma. Don't you want cookies?" Ishaom. Despite everything, Ethan felt a laugh bubble up in his chest. "I can buy my own cookies, baby." "But it's better when someone brings them for you," Luna said seriously. "That means they're thinking about you." Ethan set down his fork, studying his daughter's face. She looked back at him with those enormous eyes that always seemed to see more than they should. "Are you worried about me?" he asked gently. Luna considered the question with the gravity it deserved. "Sometimes you look sad." The words hit Ethan square in the chest. He wanted to deny it, wanted to reassure Luna that he was fine, that she didn't need to worry about him. But she was right. He was sad, had been sad for 3 years, and apparently he'd been doing a worse job of hiding it than he'd thought. "I miss Mommy sometimes," Ethan said carefully. "And sometimes that makes me sad. But that's okay. It's normal to miss people we love." "I miss her too," Luna said quietly. Ethan reached across the table and took Luna's small hand in his. "I know you do. But I think she'd want you to be happy." The observation was so adult, so unexpectedly perceptive, that Ethan felt his throat close up. He blinked rapidly, trying to keep the sudden sting of tears from becoming actual crying. "Yeah," he managed. "I think she would too." "So you should marry the pretty lady," Luna concluded, as if this was the obvious solution to everything they'd just discussed. Ethan laughed, the sound coming out slightly wet. "That's not how it works, baby." "Why not?" "Because you can't just decide to marry someone you've never met. But if you met her, then you could marry her." The logic was airtight in Luna's 5-year-old mind. Ethan didn't have the energy to explain all the reasons why real life was more complicated than that. "Eat your pasta," he said instead. Luna took another reluctant bite, and they finished dinner with no more discussion of marriage or mysterious strangers or whether Ethan looked sad. After dinner came bath time, which involved Luna flooding the bathroom floor and using approximately 3 times more shampoo than necessary. Then pajamas, which required Luna to try on 4 different pairs before settling on the purple ones with stars. Then teeth brushing, which turned into a game where Luna pretended to be a dinosaur and Ethan had to coax the dinosaur into opening its mouth. By the time they finally reached the bedroom, Ethan was ready to collapse. Luna climbed into bed and arranged her stuffed animals in their required positions. Elephant on the left, bear on the right, rabbit at her feet. Ethan sat on the edge of the mattress and picked up the first of the 3 books Luna had selected. They were halfway through the second story when Luna interrupted him. "Dad? Yeah? I really do think you're going to marry her." Ethan closed the book and looked at his daughter, who gazed back at him with absolute conviction. "Why are you so sure about this?" he asked. Luna thought about it for a moment. "I just am. It feels true." "Feelings aren't the same as truth, baby." "Sometimes they are." Ethan didn't have an argument for that. He smoothed Luna's wild curls back from her forehead and kissed her goodnight. "Get some sleep." "Okay. Love you, Daddy." "Love you too, baby girl. Yum." He turned off the light and pulled the door halfway closed, leaving it open just enough that the hallway light would keep the room from being completely dark. Back in the living room, Ethan collapsed onto the couch and stared at the ceiling. The unfolded laundry sat next to him, silently judging his life choices. He should fold it, should clean up the toys, should probably look at the bills that had been sitting unopened on the kitchen counter for 3 days. Instead, he pulled out his phone and opened Facebook, scrolling mindlessly through updates from people he barely remembered. Someone from high school was on vacation in Mexico. A former coworker had just bought a house. His cousin had posted 17 photos of her cat. Ethan was about to close the app when a sponsored post caught his attention. It was an article from a business magazine. 30 Under 30, the youngest CEOs changing tech. He almost scrolled past it. Almost. But something made him click. The article loaded and Ethan skimmed through profiles of ambitious entrepreneurs who all looked impossibly young and successful. He was about to give up when he reached the 3rd profile and froze. The woman in the photo was the same woman from the park. He was sure of it. Same sharp features, same intense eyes, same presence that somehow translated even through a photograph. Ethan read the caption underneath. Vivian Hart, 30, CEO of Hart Technologies. Under her leadership, the company has grown from a small startup to a $2.3 billion valuation in just 4 years. He stared at the photo for a long moment, his brain trying to process the coincidence. The random stranger his daughter had pointed at in the park was a billionaire CEO. Ethan read the full profile. It detailed Vivian Hart's meteoric rise in the tech industry, her reputation for being ruthlessly intelligent and emotionally unavailable, her habit of never staying in one location for more than 18 months before moving on to the next opportunity. Hart is known for her ability to identify failing companies and turn them profitable within a year, the article stated. She's currently based in the city but has received offers from corporations in Seattle, San Francisco, and New York. Industry insiders say it's only a matter of time before she accepts a global CEO position. Ethan set down his phone and rubbed his eyes. Of all the people Luna could have randomly decided he should marry, it had to be someone who existed in a completely different stratosphere. A woman who probably earned more in a day than Ethan made in a year. A woman who lived a life so far removed from his reality that they might as well have been on different planets. The whole situation was absurd. He picked up the phone again and looked at the photo one more time. Vivian Hart stared back at him with an expression that suggested she was analyzing something just outside the frame, already thinking 3 moves ahead. Beautiful, yes, but also completely untouchable. Ethan closed the app and tossed his phone onto the couch cushion beside him. Luna's impossible wish was exactly that, impossible. He should forget about it, about her, about the whole weird encounter, except he couldn't stop thinking about the look on Luna's face when she'd pointed. The absolute certainty. The strange conviction that had made the hair on his neck stand up. "You're losing it," Ethan muttered to himself. He was tired, overworked, stressed about money and parenting and a check engine light he couldn't afford to fix. His daughter had pointed at a random stranger, and now he was looking up billionaire CEOs on Facebook like some kind of stalker. This was ridiculous. Ethan forced himself to get up and fold the laundry, a task that took twice as long as it should have because he kept getting distracted by his own thoughts. By the time he finished, it was nearly 10 p.m. He checked on Luna, fast asleep with her elephant clutched against her chest, then brushed his teeth and fell into bed. He was asleep within minutes, and he dreamed of a woman in a charcoal suit who walked past him without looking back. The dream didn't fade the way dreams usually did. Ethan woke Monday morning with the image still sharp in his mind, Vivian Hart walking away, her silhouette growing smaller until she disappeared completely. He lay in bed staring at the ceiling, listening to the sounds of the apartment building coming to life around him. Someone upstairs was running water. A car alarm went off in the parking lot. His phone said 6:15 a.m. Luna wouldn't be up for another 20 minutes if he was lucky. Ethan forced himself out of bed and shuffled to the kitchen, starting the coffee maker with the mechanical efficiency of someone who'd performed this exact routine 1,000 times. While the machine gurgled and hissed, he opened his laptop at the kitchen table and checked his work email. 43 unread messages. Most of them could wait. 3 of them probably couldn't. He was halfway through composing a response to his manager about the quarterly report when Luna appeared in the doorway, dragging her elephant by one ear. "Morning, baby." "Is it school day?" "Yep." Luna's face crumpled with disappointment. "I don't want school day." "I know, but you like your friends, right?" "I guess." Ethan closed his laptop and moved to the refrigerator. "Cereal or toast?" "Cereal." He poured her a bowl of the generic brand cornflakes that tasted almost but not quite like the real thing, added milk, and set it on the table. Luna climbed into her chair and began eating with the enthusiasm of someone being forced to consume cardboard. "You okay?" Ethan asked. "My stomach feels weird." Ethan pressed the back of his hand against her forehead. "No fever." "Weird how?" "Just weird." "Do you think you're going to throw up?" Luna considered this carefully. "No, then you're going to school." "But Dad," "No buts, eat your cereal." Luna ate 3 more bites, then pushed the bowl away. "I'm done." "You barely touched it." "I'm not hungry." Ethan bit back his frustration. They'd been through this before, Luna testing boundaries, seeing what she could get away with. If he gave in every time she claimed her stomach felt weird, she'd never go to school. 5 more bites, he said firmly. 3. 4. Wow. Okay. Luna ate 4 extremely slow bites, making a face with each one, then looked at Ethan expectantly. "Good enough. Go brush your teeth." She slid off her chair and trudged toward the bathroom like someone heading to their execution. Ethan dumped the remaining cereal down the sink and rinsed the bowl, already mentally calculating whether they'd have enough time to get to school without him being late for work. They didn't. Ethan was late anyway. He dropped Luna at the daycare center attached to her elementary school at 8:47 a.m., kissed her goodbye while she clung to his leg, and insisted her stomach still felt weird, then drove 15 minutes to the office building where he worked as a financial analyst for a mid-sized insurance company. He hated the job, had hated it for 3 years, but it paid enough to cover rent and groceries and Luna's daycare, so he showed up every morning and sat in his gray cubicle and analyzed spreadsheets until his eyes crossed. His coworker Jason was already at his desk when Ethan arrived, eating what appeared to be leftover Chinese food for breakfast. "You're late," Jason observed. "Luna didn't want to go to school." "She never wants to go to school, sis." "Yeah, well." Ethan dropped his bag next to his desk and logged into his computer. "How was your weekend?" "Boring. Watched the game, ordered pizza, living the dream." Jason took another bite of lo mein. "You do anything interesting?" Ethan thought about Luna pointing at a billionaire CEO and declaring Ethan should marry her. "Not really. Took Luna to the park." "Riveting. I'm aware, They fell into companionable silence, both staring at their respective computer screens. Ethan pulled up the quarterly report he was supposed to have finished last Friday and tried to care about the numbers. He made it until 10:30 before his mind wandered back to Vivian Hart. It was stupid. He knew it was stupid, but he couldn't stop himself from opening a new browser tab and typing her name into the search bar. Dozens of results appeared. Articles about her company's latest acquisition, a profile in Forbes, a speaking engagement at a tech conference in San Francisco, photos of her at various industry events, always in expensive suits, always with the same composed expression. Ethan clicked on an interview from 2 months ago. You've said in previous interviews that you don't believe in work-life balance, the interviewer had asked. Do you stand by that statement? I don't believe in it because I don't think the concept makes sense, Vivian had responded. Life isn't something separate from work. Work is part of life. And if you're doing work that matters, why would you want to compartmentalize it? What about relationships, family? What about them? Do you make time for those things? There had been a pause before Vivian answered, long enough that the interviewer noted it in the transcript. I make time for what's important. Right now, building something that lasts is what's important. Ethan closed the browser tab and rubbed his eyes. This woman lived on a different planet. She wasn't someone who went to parks or ate bad pasta or dealt with 5-year-olds claiming their stomachs felt weird to avoid school. She was someone who gave interviews to Forbes about not believing in work-life balance. And somehow his daughter had looked at her and decided she was perfect. You okay? Jason asked from the next cubicle. Yeah, just tired. You're always tired. Thanks for the observation. I'm just saying, maybe you should, I don't know, do something for yourself once in a while. Ethan glanced over at Jason, who had the well-meaning but clueless expression of someone without kids offering parenting advice. Like what? I don't know, go out, meet people. My girlfriend has this friend who's single. No. I didn't even finish. The answer is still no. Jason held up his hands in surrender. Fine. Die alone surrounded by spreadsheets. See if I care. That's the plan. Oh, that's second. Ethan turned back to his computer and forced himself to focus on the quarterly report. He made it through 2 more hours before his phone buzzed with a text from Luna's school. His stomach dropped before he even read it. Luna says her stomach hurts. Can you pick her up? Ethan called the school office. The receptionist answered on the 3rd ring. Hi, this is Ethan Cole. I got a message about Luna. Oh, yes, Mr. Cole. She's in the nurse's office. She's very insistent that she needs to go home. Is she actually sick, or is she just saying her stomach hurts? There was a pause. Well, she doesn't have a fever, but she's quite upset. Which meant Luna was manipulating the situation, and Ethan was going to have to leave work in the middle of the day to deal with it. I'll be there in 20 minutes, he said. He hung up, grabbed his jacket, and stopped by his manager's office on the way out. Family emergency, Ethan said before his manager could ask. Again? Yes, again. His manager looked like he wanted to say something else but thought better of it. Fine, but I need that report by tomorrow morning. You'll have it. Ethan left before the conversation could continue. The drive to Luna's school took 15 minutes because he hit every red light. When he arrived, Luna was sitting in the nurse's office looking perfectly healthy and extremely pleased with herself. Dad, your stomach still hurts? Ethan asked, keeping his voice neutral. Luna nodded solemnly. Really bad. The school nurse gave Ethan a look that suggested she knew exactly what was happening but couldn't prove it. Let's go, Ethan said. He signed Luna out and walked her to the car in silence. Once they were both buckled in, he turned to face her. You're not sick. Luna's eyes went wide with false innocence. I am. Luna, my stomach really does feel weird. Weird is not the same as sick, and you can't leave school every time you feel weird. But what if I throw up? Then the nurse will call me. But you're not going to throw up because you're not actually sick. Yeah, may sits. Luna's lower lip trembled. For a moment, Ethan thought she might actually cry, which would make him feel terrible even though he knew he was right. Then she seemed to change tactics. Go to the park. No, I'm taking you back to work with me. But that's boring. Then maybe next time you won't fake being sick to get out of school. Luna crossed her arms and slumped in her seat with the aggrieved air of someone suffering a great injustice. Ethan started the car and headed back to the office, already dreading the looks he'd get from his co-workers when he showed up with a 5-year-old in tow. Luna lasted 45 minutes in Ethan's cubicle before the boredom became unbearable for both of them. She'd started by coloring with the markers Ethan kept in his desk drawer for exactly this situation. Then she'd gotten interested in his stapler. Then she'd discovered she could spin around in his desk chair, which led to her crashing into the cubicle wall and nearly knocking over his coffee. Luna, you need to sit still. I'm bored. I know you're bored. That's what happens when you pretend to be sick and Dad has to bring you to work. Can I have a snack? Ethan checked his watch. 2:15 p.m. He had at least 2 more hours of work left, and Luna was already climbing the walls. Come on, he said, standing up. Let's take a walk. They left the office and headed to the small break room on the second floor. Ethan bought Luna a bag of pretzels from the vending machine and got himself another coffee he didn't need. They sat at one of the small tables near the window. Outside, the city moved along at its usual Monday afternoon pace. People walking to meetings, cars stuck in traffic, life happening all around them. Dad? Yeah? Are you mad at me? Ethan looked at his daughter, who was holding her pretzels and looking genuinely worried. His irritation deflated. No, baby. I'm not mad, but I need you to understand that you can't keep doing this. I know. Do you? Because this is the 3rd time this month. Luna picked at the pretzel bag. I just don't like school sometimes. Why not? She shrugged. It's loud, and the other kids are mean sometimes. Ethan's protective instincts immediately kicked in. Mean how? They just are. Luna, if someone's bullying you, you need to tell me. It's not bullying. They just don't want to play with me. Why not? Another shrug. I don't know. I'm different. The words hit Ethan harder than they should have. He reached across the table and took Luna's small hand in his. Different isn't bad, he said. Different is good. It doesn't feel good. I know. But the kids who are worth being friends with are the ones who like you because you're different, not in spite of it. Luna considered this while eating a pretzel. Do you have friends like that? The question caught Ethan off guard. Did he? He had Jason, sort of, though they never spent time together outside work. He had his sister Michelle. A few people from college he barely talked to anymore. But real friends? The kind Luna was asking about. Not really, Ethan admitted. But that's mostly because I'm busy with you. You should have friends. I'm fine. You're lonely, Luna said matter-of-factly, echoing what she'd said the day before. That's why you need the pretty lady. Ethan laughed despite himself. We're back to that? I'm serious. Luna, I don't even know that woman, and she definitely doesn't know me. But you could fix that. How? Well, Luna thought about it. You could go find her. Just walk up to a billionaire CEO and say what exactly? Hi, my daughter thinks we should get married? Yes. That's not how the world works, baby. Why not? Well, because the world was complicated and unfair, and people like Vivian Hart didn't notice people like Ethan Cole, no matter how much 5-year-olds wished otherwise. But Ethan couldn't say that to Luna, so he just squeezed her hand and changed the subject. Finish your pretzels. We need to get back to work. They returned to Ethan's cubicle. Luna went back to coloring, and Ethan went back to his spreadsheets, and the afternoon crawled forward 1 minute at a time. At 5:30, Ethan finally gave up on being productive. He packed up his things, took Luna's hand, and headed home. They stopped for drive-thru on the way because Ethan didn't have the energy to cook. Luna got chicken nuggets and somehow spilled her entire chocolate milk in the car, which meant Ethan had to pull over and clean up the mess with fast food napkins, while Luna apologized repeatedly, and he tried not to lose his temper. By the time they got home, Ethan was ready to put Luna to bed immediately, even though it was only 6:45. He didn't. He let her watch cartoons while he half-heartedly cleaned the kitchen and tried to ignore the milk smell, now permanently embedded in his car's upholstery. Luna fell asleep on the couch at 7:30, which meant Ethan had to carry her to bed without waking her up, a delicate operation that required the precision of a bomb defusal expert. He managed it, barely. Once Luna was tucked in with her elephant, Ethan collapsed on the couch and stared at nothing for 20 minutes. His phone buzzed. Text from Michelle. Lunch tomorrow? I have news. Ethan typed back. Can't. Used my lunch break picking Luna up from school. Michelle. What happened? Fake stomach ache. Michelle. 3rd time this month? Yep. Michelle. You need to talk to her teacher. I know. Michelle. Dinner instead? I'll bring takeout. Ethan looked around his disaster of an apartment. Michelle would notice the mess, would make comments, would probably try to help, which would make him feel even worse about the state of his life. But he did want to see her, and he was curious about this news. 7:30, he typed. Michelle. Perfect. See you tomorrow. Ethan set down his phone and closed his eyes. Tuesday felt impossibly far away. When Tuesday finally arrived, Ethan made sure to walk Luna all the way into her classroom instead of just dropping her at daycare. He had a brief conversation with her teacher, Ms. Peterson, about Luna's sudden increase in stomach aches. She's having some social struggles, Ms. Peterson explained. The other children can be a bit exclusive sometimes. Is someone bullying her? Us. Not bullying exactly, but Luna's very perceptive for her age, and I think that makes her seem odd to the other kids. She's 5. How odd can she be? Ms. Peterson smiled kindly. She told me yesterday that she knows what I'm thinking before I say it. Then she proceeded to correctly guess my thoughts 3 times in a row. Ethan felt something cold settle in his stomach. That's probably just coincidence. Probably, Ms. Peterson agreed, though she didn't sound convinced. Ethan left the school feeling unsettled. He'd always known Luna was unusual. Her strange observations, her uncanny ability to read people, the way she sometimes said things that felt like she was channeling information from somewhere else. But he'd written it off as normal kid stuff. Active imagination, pattern recognition. Now he wasn't so sure. Work was the usual nightmare. Ethan spent 6 hours on the quarterly report, sat through a meeting about workplace efficiency that was itself wildly inefficient, and fielded 3 emails from his manager asking for updates on things Ethan had already updated him about. By the time 5 p.m. rolled around, his brain felt like mush. He picked up Luna from school, no fake stomach aches today, and they went home to clean the apartment before Michelle arrived. Luna helped by making the mess worse, moving toys from one location to another without actually putting anything away. That's not helping, Ethan said. I'm organizing. By what system? By which toys want to be together? Ethan gave up and cleaned around her. Michelle arrived at 7:35 with Thai food and a bottle of wine that Ethan immediately wanted to drink entirely by himself. Hey, troublemaker, Michelle said, scooping Luna into a hug. Aunt Michelle! You being good for your dad? Luna nodded enthusiastically, conveniently forgetting the fake stomach ache incident. Michelle set down the food and gave Ethan a quick hug. She was 2 years older than him, worked as a nurse at the children's hospital, and had opinions about everything, especially Ethan's life choices. You look exhausted, she said. Thanks. I mean it. When's the last time you got a full night's sleep? 2019. Ethan, I'm fine. Michelle gave him a look that said she didn't believe him for a second, but was choosing not to push it. Where do you want to eat? They settled at the kitchen table with the takeout containers spread between them. Luna got pad thai and immediately started picking out all the vegetables. Michelle poured herself a glass of wine and offered one to Ethan. I'm good, he said. You're never good. I'm good tonight. Michelle shrugged and took a sip of her own wine. Suit yourself. So, my news. I'm listening. I'm seeing someone. Ethan looked up from his spring rolls. Seriously? Why do you sound so surprised? See, because you told me 3 months ago that all men were garbage and you were swearing off dating forever. That was 3 months ago. I changed my mind. Who is he? But Michelle's face did something Ethan had never seen before. She actually looked nervous. His name is David. He's a physical therapist at the hospital. We've been seeing each other for about 6 weeks. 6 weeks? And you're just telling me now? I wanted to make sure it was real before I said anything. And is it real? Shit. Michelle smiled, a genuine, unguarded smile that made her look 10 years younger. Yeah, I think it might be. Something twisted in Ethan's chest. Not jealousy, exactly. More like a complicated mixture of happiness for his sister and a reminder of everything he'd lost. That's great, he said, and meant it. I'm happy for you. Thanks. I want you to meet him. Maybe we could do dinner next week? Sure, yeah, let me check my calendar. They both knew Ethan's calendar was completely empty, except for work and Luna's schedule, but Michelle didn't call him on it. What about you? She asked. Any progress on the dating front? Absolutely none. Ethan. What? I'm busy. Luna's a full-time job. I barely have time to sleep, let alone date. Luna's not going to be 5 forever. Eventually, you're going to have to rejoin the land of the living. I'm plenty alive, thanks. You know what I mean, Ba Shui. Ethan did know, and he didn't want to talk about it. But Luna, who had been quietly eating her pad thai and presumably ignoring the adult conversation, chose that moment to interject. Dad's going to marry the pretty lady, she announced. Michelle's eyebrows shot up. What pretty lady? The one from the park. What park? Ethan dropped his head into his hands. Luna, we've talked about this. But it's true. Michelle looked between them with growing interest. Okay, I'm going to need the full story here. There's no story, Ethan said. There's definitely a story, Michelle countered. Luna took it upon herself to explain. We were at the park on Sunday and this really pretty lady walked by and I told Dad to marry her and he said no, but I know he's going to. Michelle's expression shifted from amused to concerned. Luna, sweetie, can you go play in your room for a few minutes? The grown-ups need to talk. But room, now. Take your food with you. Luna recognized the tone that meant Michelle wasn't negotiating. She grabbed her pad thai and trudged toward her bedroom with dramatic reluctance. Once she was gone, Michelle turned to Ethan. What the hell was that? Exactly what she said. We were at the park. Some woman walked by. Luna decided I should marry her. End of story. That doesn't sound like the end of the story. Ethan sighed. Fine. I looked her up. Turns out she's a billionaire CEO. Michelle blinked. You're joking. I wish I was. Her name is Vivian Hart. She runs some tech company worth billions. Luna pointed at her in the park and has been insisting ever since that I'm going to marry her. Have you talked to this woman? Yes, No, I don't even know her. She doesn't know I exist. The whole thing is completely insane. Michelle leaned back in her chair, studying Ethan's face. So why do you look so bothered by it? I'm not bothered. You're definitely bothered. I'm concerned about Luna, Ethan said. She's been acting weird. Her teacher said she's been guessing what people are thinking. And now she's making these declarations about my future like she can see something I can't. Kids do that sometimes. They have strong intuitions. This feels different. Different how? Ethan struggled to put it into words. She was so sure, Michelle. Not playing pretend or being imaginative. She looked at that woman and something in her head just clicked, like she knew something. Michelle took another sip of wine. Okay, that's a little weird. Thank you. But it's probably nothing. Luna's a smart kid with a good imagination and she wants you to be happy. So she fixated on some random woman who represents everything you're not. Wealth, success, a life outside of work and parenting. That's depressing. It's realistic. You're lonely, Ethan. Luna can see it. Hell, I can see it. So she's invented this fantasy where the perfect woman is going to swoop in and fix everything. Ethan knew Michelle was right. It made perfect logical sense. So why did it still feel like she was missing something? Just keep an eye on it, Michelle said. If Luna keeps doing weird things, maybe talk to her pediatrician. You think something's wrong with her? I think she's a 5-year-old processing her dad's grief in the only way she knows how. But better safe than sorry. They finished dinner while carefully avoiding any further discussion of Ethan's non-existent love life or Luna's strange predictions. Michelle told him about David, how they'd met, what he was like, the trip they were planning to the mountains next month. Ethan listened and tried to feel happy instead of envious. After Michelle left, Ethan got Luna ready for bed. She was unusually quiet during the bath, letting him wash her hair without the usual protests. You okay? He asked. Are you mad that I told Aunt Michelle about the pretty lady? No, baby, I'm not mad. She thinks I'm making it up. Well, are you? Luna looked at him with those enormous eyes that always seemed too old for her face. No, I really do know you're going to marry her. How can you possibly know that? I just do. The same way I know when you're sad, even when you're smiling, or when you're about to say something before you say it. I just know things sometimes. Eyes. Ethan felt the hairs on the back of his neck stand up. Does that scare you? Knowing things? Luna thought about it. Sometimes, but mostly it just is. If it ever does scare you, you can always talk to me about it. Okay? Okay. He finished her bath and got her into pajamas, then tucked her into bed with her elephant and the usual collection of stuffed animals. Dad? Yeah? The pretty lady is sad too. Just like you. Ethan's hand froze on the light switch. What? You can't. She's sad. And lonely. That's why you're supposed to find each other. Luna, I know you don't believe me, but it's true. She said it with such absolute conviction that Ethan didn't know how to respond. He kissed her forehead, turned off the light, and left the room with his head spinning. Back in the living room, he pulled out his laptop and opened it before he could talk himself out of it. He found Vivian Hart's company website, read through the About page, looked at photos of her at various corporate events. In every single photo, she looked composed, professional, completely in control. But Michelle's words echoed in his head. She represents everything you're not. And Luna's words followed. She's sad too, just like you. Ethan closed the laptop and went to bed. He dreamed about charcoal suits and empty parks and a little girl who could see the future. The coffee shop collision happened entirely by accident. Ethan had stopped thinking about Vivian Hart, or at least he'd tried to stop thinking about her. For 3 days after his conversation with Michelle, he'd successfully avoided looking her up online, had redirected Luna every time she mentioned the pretty lady, and had convinced himself the whole thing was just an odd coincidence he'd blown out of proportion. Then Saturday morning arrived, and Luna wanted pancakes from the diner 2 blocks from their apartment instead of the cereal Ethan had planned to serve. Please, Dad, they have the good syrup. Ethan was too tired to argue. Fine, go get dressed. 20 minutes later, they were walking down the street toward Murphy's diner, Luna skipping ahead while Ethan carried the mental load of a man who'd slept maybe 4 hours. He'd been up until 2 a.m. finishing the quarterly report his manager needed. Then Luna had woken up at 5:30 with a nightmare about robots. The diner was crowded. Ethan put their names on the wait list and was told it'd be 15 minutes. Luna immediately started complaining she was starving, which Ethan knew was physically impossible given she'd eaten a granola bar in the car. We can wait or we can go home and have cereal, he said. Luna weighed her options. Wait, then stop complaining. There was a coffee shop next door. One of those expensive places that sold single-origin beans and had names for drink sizes that made no logical sense. Ethan normally avoided it because a single cup cost what he could get an entire can of grounds for at the grocery store. But he was exhausted, and the diner would text when their table was ready, and Luna was currently fascinated by a dog tied up outside the coffee shop. Come on, Ethan said. Let's get coffee while we wait. The coffee shop was just as crowded as the diner. Ethan joined the line, keeping one hand on Luna's shoulder to prevent her from wandering. She was talking to him about the dog, a golden retriever she'd decided looked lonely and needed a friend. Can we get a dog? No. Why not? Because we live in an apartment and I can barely keep you alive, let alone a dog. I'd help take care of it. You won't even clean your room. That's different. Ethan was formulating a response when the woman in front of them in line turned around to grab a napkin from the counter and walked directly into him. Coffee went everywhere, all over Ethan's shirt, all over the woman's incredibly expensive-looking coat, all over the floor in a spreading brown puddle that made the barista behind the counter swear loudly. I'm so sorry, the woman said immediately, her voice sharp with distress. I didn't see... She stopped mid-sentence. Ethan looked up from his now ruined shirt and felt his stomach drop straight through the floor. Vivian Hart was staring at him with an expression of horror, holding an empty coffee cup in one hand and a designer handbag in the other. For 3 seconds, nobody moved. Then Luna's voice cut through the shocked silence. Dad, it's her! The pretty lady! Vivian's gaze dropped to Luna, then back to Ethan, confusion joining the horror on her face. I'm so sorry, Vivian said again. I'll pay for dry cleaning, both of you. I mean, your shirt, and let me just... She looked around helplessly, as if dry cleaning services might materialize out of thin air. It's fine, Ethan managed, though his shirt was definitely not fine. The coffee had been hot and was now soaking through to his skin. It's not fine, I just... Vivian stopped again, seeming to realize they were blocking the line and creating a scene. Is there somewhere we can eat? The barista appeared with a roll of paper towels and an expression that suggested this was not the first coffee disaster she'd dealt with this morning. Bathrooms in the back if you need to clean up. Ethan accepted the paper towels and began the futile process of trying to soak coffee out of his shirt. Vivian was doing the same with her coat, which looked like it cost more than Ethan's entire wardrobe combined. Luna, meanwhile, had grabbed Ethan's hand and was staring at Vivian with undisguised delight. "See, Dad? I told you we'd see her again." Vivian looked at Luna, then at Ethan, clearly trying to figure out what was happening. "I'm sorry, have we met before?" "No," Ethan said quickly. "We haven't. My daughter she saw you at the park last week and she's been—" He stopped, realizing there was no way to finish that sentence without sounding completely insane. "I told Dad to marry you," Luna supplied helpfully. Vivian's eyes went wide. Ethan wanted the floor to open up and swallow him whole. "Luna, we talked about this," Ethan said through gritted teeth. "But it's true. That doesn't mean you say it to strangers." Vivian looked like she was trying very hard not to laugh or run away, or possibly both. "That's, certainly direct." "I'm so sorry," Ethan said. "She's 5. She doesn't have a filter." Clearly. Vivian glanced down at her coffee-stained coat, then back at Ethan. "Look, I really am sorry about your shirt. Can I at least buy you a replacement coffee? It's the least I can do after—" She gestured vaguely at the disaster around them. "You don't have to—" "Dad, say yes," Luna interjected. "You need coffee. You said so in the car." Ethan looked at his daughter, who was gazing up at him with an expression of absolute innocence that didn't fool him for a second. Vivian was watching him with something that might have been amusement. Up close, she looked different than she had in the park or in the photos online. Younger, maybe. Or just more human. There was a small scar above her left eyebrow, and her hair was slightly messy, like she'd been running her hands through it. "Okay," Ethan heard himself say. "Coffee would be good." Vivian's shoulders relaxed slightly. "Great. What do you want?" "Just regular coffee. Medium. And for you?" Vivian asked Luna. "Hot chocolate with extra whipped cream." "Luna, it's fine," Vivian said, and there was something almost like a smile pulling at the corner of her mouth. "Hot chocolate with extra whipped cream. Got it." She moved to the counter to order, leaving Ethan standing there with his ruined shirt and his scheming daughter and absolutely no idea what to do with this situation. "This is perfect," Luna whispered. "This is a disaster," Ethan whispered back. "She's buying you coffee. Because she spilled coffee on me, not because she wants to marry me. But now you can talk to her." "Luna," Vivian returned before Ethan could finish the thought. "They're making the drinks now. Should be just a minute." An awkward silence descended. Ethan tried desperately to think of something normal to say, but his brain had apparently stopped functioning. Vivian saved him. "So, you come here often?" That sounded like a bad pickup line. I didn't mean it like a pickup line. "No, we don't. We usually go to the diner next door. We're just waiting for a table." "Murphy's?" "Yeah. I love that place. Their pancakes are amazing." "That's where we're going," Luna announced. "I'm getting chocolate chip pancakes. Solid choice," Vivian said seriously, and Ethan realized she was talking to Luna like an actual person instead of using the condescending tone most adults adopted around kids. Luna beamed. "What's your favorite pancake?" "Blueberry, but only if they're real blueberries, not the frozen ones." "Murphy's uses real ones," Luna said with authority. "Good to know." Their drinks appeared on the counter. Vivian collected them and handed Ethan his coffee and Luna her hot chocolate, which did indeed have an absurd amount of whipped cream. "Thank you," Ethan said. "It's the least I could do." Vivian glanced at her watch. Expensive, probably Swiss, definitely worth more than Ethan's car. "I should actually get going, but again, I'm really sorry about your shirt." She started to leave and Ethan felt an odd sense of disappointment, which was stupid. He didn't know this woman. Didn't want to know this woman. The whole situation was ridiculous. Then Luna grabbed Vivian's hand. Vivian looked down in surprise. Luna looked up at her with those enormous brown eyes that could convince anyone of anything. Do you want to have pancakes with us? Ethan's heart stopped. Luna, Ms. Hart is busy. I'm not actually, Vivian said slowly. I was just going to go home and work, but she looked at Ethan. Would that be weird if I had pancakes with you? Yes, Ethan's brain screamed. Absolutely weird. Completely insane. No, his mouth said. It wouldn't be weird. Vivian smiled. A real smile this time, not the polite professional thing from the photos online. Okay then, pancakes. Ethan's phone buzzed with a text from the diner. Table ready. They walked next door together, Luna chattering away about school and her favorite cartoons, while Vivian listened with what appeared to be genuine interest. Ethan followed behind them, his coffee-stained shirt cold against his skin, wondering what alternate reality he'd just stepped into. The hostess at Murphy's led them to a booth near the window. Luna immediately claimed the spot next to Vivian, leaving Ethan to slide into the opposite seat. Do you have kids? Luna asked Vivian while they looked at menus. No, I don't. Why not? Luna, Ethan said warningly. What? I'm just asking. Vivian set down her menu. I travel a lot for work. I'm not home enough to take care of a plant, let alone a kid. What kind of work do you do? I run a company that makes software. What's software? Computer programs, apps on your phone, that kind of thing. Luna considered this. That sounds boring. Luna, Vivian laughed, a real laugh that made her look about 10 years younger. Sometimes it is boring, but sometimes it's interesting. Do you like it? Most of the time. What about the other times? Vivian paused and something shifted in her expression. The other times I wonder why I'm doing it. The honesty in her voice surprised Ethan. He'd expected corporate speak, polite deflection, not this raw admission from someone who looked like she had everything figured out. Their waitress appeared and took their orders. Luna got her chocolate chip pancakes. Ethan ordered scrambled eggs because he still felt awkward about the whole situation and couldn't focus enough to make a real decision. Vivian asked for the blueberry pancakes and black coffee. Real blueberries, the waitress confirmed. Perfect. After the waitress left, Luna kept interrogating Vivian with the relentless curiosity of a 5-year-old who'd found a new favorite person. Where do you live? Us. Downtown, in an apartment. Is it big? Bigger than I need. Do you have a dog? No. A cat? No pets at all. That's sad. Everyone should have a pet. I'm not home enough to take care of one. You should work less. Vivian's smile was sad around the edges. Probably. Ethan finally found his voice. I'm sorry about all the questions. She's normally not this curious, Vivian supplied. It's fine. It's actually kind of nice. Most people ask me about quarterly earnings and market projections. That does sound boring, Luna said. It really is. Their food arrived. For a few minutes, everyone focused on eating. Ethan watched Luna systematically pick out all the chocolate chips from her pancakes and eat them first, leaving the actual pancake for last. He should probably correct this behavior, but he was too distracted by Vivian cutting her pancakes into precise geometric squares. You're very organized, he observed. Vivian looked at her plate, then laughed. Habit. I like things orderly. I can tell. Is that a bad thing? No, just different from... He gestured at Luna, who now had syrup in her hair. This. Chaos has its own appeal. You don't strike me as someone who believes that. Vivian met his eyes. You'd be surprised what I believe. There was something in her voice that made Ethan think she wasn't just talking about pancake organization. Luna broke the moment by asking Vivian if she wanted to see the drawing she'd made in school. Vivian said yes, and Luna produced a crumpled piece of paper from Ethan's jacket pocket, showing what appeared to be a family of stick figures. That's me, Luna pointed, and that's Dad, and that's you. Ethan felt his face heat. Luna, this is beautiful, Vivian said, studying the drawing seriously. I'm the tall one? Yeah, because you're really tall. Fair enough. Who's the dog? That's the dog we're going to get. We're not getting a dog, Ethan said. Not yet, Luna corrected. But we will. Vivian handed the drawing back to Luna. Well, I think it's perfect. They fell into easier conversation after that. Vivian asked about Luna's school, and Luna told her about the other kids who didn't want to play with her. Vivian confessed she'd had similar problems as a kid. Really? Luna asked. Really, I was weird, too serious, always reading instead of playing. Ishii? I'm weird too. Then you're in good company. Ethan found himself relaxing despite the absurdity of the situation. Vivian was surprisingly easy to talk to once you got past the intimidating exterior. She was funny in a dry, unexpected way. She asked good questions and actually listened to the answers. And she was patient with Luna in a way that suggested she genuinely liked kids, even if she claimed not to have time for them. What about you? Vivian asked Ethan. What do you do for work? Financial analyst, insurance company. Do you like it? Ethan almost gave the polite lie he usually offered. Instead, he found himself telling the truth. Hate it. Why? It's boring, repetitive, sucks the soul out of me one spreadsheet at a time. So why do you do it? Ethan glanced at Luna, who was now drawing on her napkin. Pays the bills. Something shifted in Vivian's expression, understanding maybe, or recognition. I get that. Do you? You run a billion-dollar company. Yeah. 2.3 billion, actually, Vivian said, then immediately looked embarrassed. Sorry, that sounded like you're a billionaire? Like I'm an asshole. Ethan surprised himself by laughing. Little bit, Vivian smiled. I deserve that. They finished breakfast. Ethan tried to pay the bill, but Vivian had already handed her credit card to the waitress before he could even reach for his wallet. You don't have to. I spilled coffee all over you. Consider it my apology. That's too much for an apology. Then consider it payment for the entertainment. Your daughter is hilarious. Luna beamed. I know. They walked outside together. The morning had turned sunny and warm, the kind of November day that felt like a gift before winter really hit. People walked past carrying shopping bags and coffee cups, living their normal Saturday lives. Ethan knew he should say goodbye. Should thank Vivian for breakfast and let her get back to her actual life that had nothing to do with coffee-stained single fathers and their weird kids. But Luna was still holding Vivian's hand, and Vivian didn't seem in a hurry to leave, and Ethan found himself asking a question before he could stop himself. There's a park a few blocks from here. We usually go there after breakfast. Do you want to, you probably have things to do, but if you wanted to, I'd love to, Vivian said, and she sounded like she meant it. The park was smaller than Riverside, but less crowded. Luna ran ahead toward the swings, while Ethan and Vivian followed at a slower pace. Your daughter is very determined, Vivian said. That's one word for it. She really told you to marry me? Ethan felt his face heat. Yeah, she pointed at you in the park last Sunday and just declared it. And you looked me up? How did you Because that's what I would have done. Vivian was quiet for a moment. Did you find anything interesting? Found out you're rich and successful and never stay anywhere longer than 18 months. Sounds about right. Why is that? Vivian watched Luna swing higher and higher, her expression distant. If you never stay, you never get attached. If you never get attached, you never get hurt. The raw honesty in her voice caught Ethan off guard. Does it work? Not really. You just get lonely instead. Luna called for them to watch her jump off the swing. They both turned their attention to her, and she launched herself into the air with absolutely no regard for safety, landing in the sand with a triumphant, "Did you see?" Very impressive, Vivian called back. Luna ran off toward the jungle gym, leaving them alone again. Can I ask you something? Ethan said. Sure. Why did you really agree to have breakfast with us? You could have just apologized for the coffee and left. Vivian was quiet for a long time. When she finally spoke, her voice was soft. Your daughter looked at me like I was someone worth knowing. Not my company or my money or what I could do for her. Just, me. I can't remember the last time someone did that. The admission hung between them like something fragile. For what it's worth, Ethan said, I think you are worth knowing. Vivian turned to look at him, and there was something vulnerable in her expression that made her look nothing like the composed CEO from the photos. You don't even know me, so let me know you. I'm only in town for another 6 months, maybe less. I have a standing offer for a CEO position in Seattle. I'll probably take it. Okay? I work 80-hour weeks. I'm terrible at relationships. I've never stayed anywhere long enough to plant flowers. Okay. This is a bad idea. Probably. They looked at each other. Ethan saw the exact moment Vivian made her decision, saw something in her face shift from resistance to tentative acceptance. Coffee, Vivian said. Let's start with coffee. Real coffee, not the disaster this morning. When? Tuesday? There's a place near my office. Are you free for lunch? I can be. Vivian pulled out her phone. Give me your number. I'll text you the address. Ethan recited his number, feeling like he was doing something dangerous and possibly stupid and completely outside his comfort zone. His phone buzzed a moment later with a text from an unknown number. This is Vivian, Tuesday 12:30. Don't stand me up. He typed back, wouldn't dream of it. They stayed at the park another hour. Luna showed Vivian all her favorite spots, the best climbing tree, the tunnel slide that echoed when you yelled, the patch of clover where she looked for four-leaf varieties. Vivian followed along gamely, asking questions and acting interested, and Ethan kept waiting for the moment when she'd check her watch and remember she had better things to do. The moment never came. Eventually, though, Luna started getting tired and cranky, which meant it was time to head home for her nap. I should go too, Vivian said. I have a meeting at 3. On a Saturday? International time zones are inconvenient. They walked back toward the coffee shop where Vivian's car was parked. It was a sleek black sedan that probably cost more than Ethan made in 5 years. Thank you, Ethan said, for breakfast and the park, and not running away when my daughter ambushed you. Vivian smiled. Thank you for letting me crash your morning. I had more fun than I've had in a long time. Really? Really? She crouched down to Luna's level. Thanks for inviting me to pancakes. Luna threw her arms around Vivian's neck in an enthusiastic hug that clearly surprised her. For a second, Vivian just froze. Then her arms came up to hug Luna back. See you Tuesday, Luna said when she pulled away. See you Tuesday, Vivian agreed. She got in her car and drove away. Ethan and Luna watched until the sedan disappeared around a corner. I told you, Luna said smugly. She's just having coffee with me. That's not marriage. Not yet. Ethan picked Luna up and carried her toward their car, which was parked 3 blocks away because he'd been too cheap to pay for closer parking. Luna rested her head on his shoulder, already half asleep. Dad? Yeah? I like her. Me too, baby. You're going to marry her. What? We'll see. But walking back to the car with his daughter in his arms and Vivian's text message saved in his phone, Ethan felt something he hadn't felt in 3 years. He felt hopeful and terrified and completely unprepared for whatever came next. Tuesday took 3 years to arrive, or at least that's how it felt to Ethan, who spent Monday at work unable to concentrate on anything except the fact that he had a lunch date with a billionaire CEO and absolutely no idea what to wear or say or do with his hands. You're being weird, Jason observed around noon, looking up from his own computer. I'm not being weird. You've been staring at that same spreadsheet for 45 minutes without typing anything. Ethan closed the spreadsheet. I have a lunch thing tomorrow. What kind of lunch thing? Just lunch. Jason's eyes narrowed. With a woman? Maybe. Holy shit. You have a date. It's not a date. It's just coffee. At lunch. Coffee at lunch is absolutely a date. Jason spun his chair around to face Ethan directly. Who is she? Someone I met at the park. Details, man. Come on. Ethan sighed. Her name is Vivian. She's smart. She's interesting. And before you ask, yes, I'm terrified. Good. Terror means you actually care. That's not helpful. It's not supposed to be helpful. It's supposed to be true. Jason grabbed his coffee mug. What are you wearing? I don't know. Clothes? That's not a plan. You need a plan. Since when do you care about fashion? Since you're about to blow your first real chance at dating in 3 years by showing up in whatever sad shirt you grabbed off your floor this morning. Ethan looked down at his shirt. It was slightly wrinkled. This is fine. It's not fine. Do you own anything that doesn't look like you bought it in 2015? No. Jason shook his head. We're going shopping after work. I'm not going shopping. Yes, you are. You're going to buy one decent shirt that fits properly, and you're going to wear it tomorrow, and you're going to thank me later. Ethan wanted to argue, but Jason was already back to his computer, the matter apparently settled. They went shopping after work. Ethan hated every minute of it. Jason dragged him to 3 different stores before finding a shirt that met his inexplicably high standards, a dark blue button-down that cost more than Ethan wanted to spend, but did, admittedly, look better than anything currently in his closet. "See?" Jason said. "You look almost human." "I looked human before." "You look tired. Now you look like someone who might be worth having coffee with." Ethan bought the shirt, along with the tie Jason insisted he needed, even though Ethan argued that ties were corporate torture devices. That night, after Luna was asleep, Ethan tried on the shirt 3 times and questioned every decision that had led to this moment. He texted Michelle a photo. Her response came immediately. "Who are you and what have you done with my brother? Is it too much? For a lunch date?" "No." "For your normal life?" "Yes." "Who is she?" "The woman from the park." There was a long pause before Michelle's next text. "The billionaire CEO?" "Yes." "You're joking. I wish I was." "How did this happen?" Ethan typed out the whole story. The coffee shop collision, the pancakes, Luna basically forcing them together through sheer determination. Michelle's response was a string of laughing emojis followed by, "Your daughter is terrifying and I love her. She thinks she can predict the future. Maybe she can. Good luck tomorrow. Don't be yourself." That's terrible advice. It's great advice. Yourself is anxious and overthinks everything. Be the version of yourself who's confident and interesting. I don't have that version. Fake it till you make it, little brother. Ethan set down his phone and stared at the ceiling, trying to figure out how to fake confidence when his insides felt like they'd been replaced with electrical wiring set to maximum voltage. He barely slept. Tuesday morning arrived with the kind of gray, overcast sky that matched Ethan's anxiety. He got Luna ready for school, dropped her off with strict instructions not to tell anyone about the coffee date, and drove to work in the new shirt that felt stiff and uncomfortable. Jason gave him a thumbs up when he walked past his cubicle. Ethan spent the morning pretending to work while actually watching the clock and wondering if it was too late to cancel. At 11:45, he gave up on productivity and went to the bathroom to check his appearance. He looked terrified. Great. At 12:15, he left the office and drove to the address Vivian had sent him, a small cafe in the financial district that looked expensive in that understated way that meant it was extremely expensive. Ethan parked 3 blocks away and walked, his heart hammering against his ribs. Vivian was already there, sitting at a corner table with her laptop open and a cup of something next to her. She wore a gray suit that probably cost more than Ethan's car, and looked completely absorbed in whatever was on her screen. Ethan stood in the doorway for a solid 10 seconds, considering whether he could just turn around and pretend this never happened. Then Vivian looked up and saw him. Her face transformed with a smile that made Ethan's stomach do something complicated. She closed her laptop and waved him over. "You came," she said as he approached. "You sound surprised. I was maybe 30% convinced you'd bail. I was maybe 80% convinced I'd bail." Vivian laughed. "Honesty. I like it. Sit." Ethan sat. The cafe was quieter than he'd expected, filled with the kind of professionals who had lunch meetings and expense accounts. He felt immediately out of place. "You look nice," Vivian said. "This is a new shirt. I can tell. Is that bad?" "It's endearing." Vivian gestured to the counter. "Do you want to order something? The sandwiches here are good." They ordered. Vivian got some kind of artisanal panini. Ethan got a turkey sandwich that cost $14 and made him die a little inside, and returned to the table. For a moment, neither of them spoke. "This is weird, right?" Ethan finally said. "Not bad weird, just weird." "Extremely weird," Vivian agreed. "I don't usually do this." "Do what?" "Have lunch with strangers I met because their daughter ambushed me. To be fair, she ambushed both of us." "True." Vivian took a sip of her coffee. "How is Luna?" "Good. She made me promise to tell you hi." "Tell her hi back." Another silence. Ethan searched desperately for something interesting to say and came up empty. Vivian saved him. "You're nervous. Is it that obvious?" You've been straightening your napkin for the last 30 seconds. Ethan looked down and realized she was right. He forced his hands into his lap. Sorry. Don't be. It's kind of nice.
Me being nervous is nice?
Most people I meet are trying to impress me or get something from me. You just look like you'd rather be anywhere else. I don't want to be anywhere else, Ethan said quickly. I want to be. I'm just not good at this. At what? This. Talking to people, is dating, whatever this is. We're just having coffee. You ordered a panini. Fine, coffee and a panini, very low stakes. Ike. Their food arrived. Ethan's sandwich was enormous and cut into triangles like he was a child at a birthday party. Vivian's panini looked like something from a food magazine. Tell me about your job, Vivian said.
The one you hate. Why do you want to hear about that?
Because most people lie about hating their jobs. You were honest about it. I find that interesting. Ethan picked up half his sandwich. There's not much to tell. I analyze insurance claims data, make spreadsheets, attend meetings where people argue about things that don't matter. Go home. Repeat. How long have you been doing it? 6 years. 3 before Sarah died, 3 after. Sarah was your wife? Yeah. Ethan set down his sandwich, suddenly not hungry. Car accident. Drunk driver ran a red light. Vivian's expression shifted to something soft and sad. I'm sorry. It was 3 years ago. I'm okay now. Are you? The question was gentle but direct. Ethan found himself answering honestly. Most days. Some days I'm just going through the motions and hoping nobody notices. I notice. Yeah, well, you're more observant than most people. They ate in silence for a while. It should have been awkward, but somehow it wasn't. Vivian didn't try to fill the quiet with meaningless chatter or offer empty platitudes about time healing all wounds. What about you? Ethan asked. Do you like what you do? Vivian considered the question seriously. I like solving problems, building things, turning failing companies into successful ones. But the actual day-to-day work, the endless meetings and negotiations and corporate politics, that part gets exhausting. So why do you do it? Because I'm good at it, and because I don't know what else I'd do. That's kind of sad. I know. Vivian took another bite of her panini. I got an offer last week, global CEO position for a tech conglomerate based in Seattle. It's everything I've been working toward for the last 10 years. Something cold settled in Ethan's chest. Are you going to take it? I don't know. I have until Thanksgiving to decide. That's less than 2 weeks. I'm aware. What's holding you back, miss? Vivian looked at him for a long moment. Honestly, I have no idea. 6 months ago, I would have said yes immediately. Now I keep finding reasons to delay. Like what? Like thinking maybe there's more to life than corner offices and board meetings. She paused. Like having pancakes with a 5-year-old who thinks I'm worth knowing. The admission hung between them like something fragile and important. For what it's worth, Ethan said quietly, I think you are worth knowing. And I think you should do whatever makes you happy, even if that's moving to Seattle. But what if I don't know what makes me happy? Then maybe you should figure it out before you commit to a job that'll take over your entire life. Vivian smiled, but it was sad around the edges. You sound like my therapist. You have a therapist? Doesn't everyone? I can't afford a therapist. That's depressing. Hey. Welcome to my life. Das Beto dies Ikes. They finished eating. The cafe had mostly emptied out, the lunch rush over. Ethan checked his watch and realized with surprise that they'd been talking for over an hour. I should get back to work, he said reluctantly. Me too. I have a conference call at 2. They stood and walked outside together. The gray sky had turned darker, threatening rain. Can I ask you something? Vivian said. Sure. Why did you agree to this? Having coffee with me. Ethan thought about lying, about giving some smooth answer that made him sound confident and together. Instead, he told the truth. Because Luna was right. I am lonely, and I've spent 3 years telling myself I'm fine alone, but I'm not. And when you looked at me in that coffee shop on Saturday, you saw me. Not the grieving widower or the struggling single dad. Just me. And I can't remember the last time anyone did that. Vivian's eyes were bright with something that might have been tears. That's exactly how I felt when Luna looked at me. She has that effect on people. She's magic. She's weird. Same thing. They stood there on the sidewalk while people rushed past them, everyone in a hurry to get wherever they were going. Ethan knew he should say goodbye, should let Vivian get back to her important job and her complicated life. Instead, he heard himself ask, "Do you want to do this again?" Yes, Vivian said immediately. Yes, I do. Friday? There's this aquarium Luna's been begging to visit. If you wanted to, I'd love to. Really? Really? Vivian pulled out her phone. Text me the details. Okay. They stood there for another moment, neither quite ready to leave. I should go, Vivian finally said. Yeah, me too. But neither of them moved. Vivian laughed. This is ridiculous. Completely ridiculous. I'm going to walk away now. Good plan. Vivian walked 3 steps, then turned back. Ethan? Yeah? Thank you for being honest, for not pretending to be someone you're not. I'm too tired to pretend to be anyone else. Good. Don't start now. She walked away for real this time. Ethan watched until she disappeared around a corner, then pulled out his phone and texted Luna's daycare to let them know he'd pick her up on time today. The response came back immediately. Luna says to tell you the pretty lady said yes. How does she know these things? Ethan had no idea, but he was starting to believe that maybe, possibly, his strange, perceptive daughter could see things the rest of them couldn't. The rest of the week passed in a blur of work and planning, and Ethan second-guessing every decision he'd made in the last 72 hours. Luna was beside herself with excitement about the aquarium trip, which she apparently considered definitive proof that her prediction was coming true. See? You're going on dates now, she said Thursday night while Ethan tried to cook dinner without burning anything. It's not a date, she's just coming to the aquarium with us. That's a date. It's a family outing. We're not a family with her yet, so it's a date. Ethan couldn't argue with that logic, so he didn't try. Friday arrived cold and clear. Ethan picked Luna up from school early, endured her questions about what Vivian would think of her outfit, and drove to the aquarium feeling like he was about to take a test he hadn't studied for. Vivian was waiting by the entrance, wearing jeans and a sweater instead of her usual expensive suits. She looked younger like this, more relaxed, though Ethan could still see tension in the set of her shoulders. You made it, Ethan said. I almost didn't. Got pulled into an emergency meeting at 4, but I'm here. Luna launched herself at Vivian with the enthusiasm of someone greeting a long-lost relative. Vivian caught her and swung her around, laughing. Ready to see some fish? Vivian asked. So many fish! They bought tickets and headed inside. The aquarium was crowded with school groups and families, the air humid and smelling faintly of salt water, and something organic Ethan tried not to think about too hard. Luna dragged them from exhibit to exhibit, pressing her face against glass and asking approximately 8,000 questions. Vivian answered the ones she could, and admitted when she didn't know, which Ethan appreciated. They stood in front of the shark tank watching a hammerhead glide past with terrifying grace. I used to be afraid of sharks, Vivian said quietly. Used to be? Then I realized people are usually scarier. That's dark. It's true. Luna had run ahead to the touch tank, leaving them alone for a moment. Ethan glanced at Vivian, trying to reconcile the put-together CEO with this woman who admitted to being afraid of sharks and showed up to aquariums on Friday afternoons. Can I ask you something personal? He said. How personal? Why are you really here? You could be doing anything right now. Working, traveling, whatever billionaires do with their free time. Vivian was quiet for a long moment, watching the shark make another lazy circle. Do you know what I did last Friday afternoon? What? Sat in my apartment alone and worked until midnight. Then I woke up Saturday, worked until I had to leave for that coffee shop, and would have gone home to work some more if I hadn't literally spilled coffee all over you. That sounds lonely. It is lonely. I've built this entire life around being successful and independent and not needing anyone. And it worked. I'm successful. I'm independent. I don't need anyone. She paused. But Luna looked at me like maybe needing people isn't a weakness. And you talk to me like I'm a person instead of a business opportunity. And for the first time in years, I'm not sure I want to keep living the way I've been living. The honesty in her voice made Ethan's chest ache. What do you want? I have no idea. That's the terrifying part. Luna's voice cut through the moment. Dad, come look at the starfish. They joined her at the touch tank. Luna plunged her hands into the water immediately, squealing when a starfish moved under her fingers. Vivian went more slowly, tentative, like she was afraid of breaking something. It's okay, Luna said. They don't bite. You sure? I'm sure. Vivian touched a starfish gently. Her face lit up with surprised delight. It's so bumpy. I know. Feel this one. They spent 20 minutes at the touch tank. Luna narrating facts she'd learned from nature documentaries while Vivian touched every creature with the careful wonder of someone discovering something new. Ethan watched them and felt something shift inside his chest. Not love, not yet, but the beginning of something that could become love if he let it. The realization terrified him. They moved through the rest of the exhibits, stood in the underwater tunnel while fish swam overhead, watched the sea otter feeding demonstration, bought overpriced stuffed animals from the gift shop because Luna's pleading was impossible to resist. By the time they left, it was almost 6 p.m. and Luna was exhausted and starving. Pizza? Ethan suggested. Yes, Luna shouted. Vivian hesitated. I don't want to intrude on your evening. You're not intruding, Ethan said. Stay, please. Something in Vivian's expression cracked. Okay. They found a pizza place 3 blocks from the aquarium, the kind of local joint with checkered tablecloths and breadsticks that came in a basket. Nothing fancy, nothing expensive, just good food and warm lighting and the comfortable noise of families eating together. Luna monopolized Vivian's attention, telling her elaborate stories about school and her favorite cartoons and the imaginary friend she'd had when she was 3. Vivian listened to all of it with genuine interest, asking follow-up questions and laughing in all the right places. Ethan watched them together and tried not to think about what would happen when Vivian inevitably left for Seattle or San Francisco or wherever the next big opportunity took her. Dad's not listening, Luna said suddenly. Ethan snapped back to attention. What? You have your thinking face on. I don't have a thinking face. Yes, you do. Your forehead gets wrinkly. Vivian laughed. She's right. You do have a thinking face. Great, thanks. What were you thinking about? Luna asked. Ethan couldn't exactly say I was thinking about how much it's going to hurt when Vivian leaves, so he improvised. Just work stuff. Jack is shocking. Luna accepted this and went back to her pizza, but Vivian was looking at him with an expression that suggested she knew he was lying. After dinner, they walked back to their cars. Luna held both their hands, swinging between them like a bridge. This was fun, Vivian said. Thank you for letting me crash your afternoon. You didn't crash anything. You were invited. Still, thank you. They reached Vivian's car first. Luna hugged her goodbye, extracting a promise that Vivian would come to the park again soon. I will, Vivian said. I promise. After Luna climbed into Ethan's car, Vivian touched his arm. Can we talk? Just for a minute? Sure. They walked a few feet away, out of Luna's earshot. I need to tell you something, Vivian said. Ethan's stomach dropped. Okay. The CEO position in Seattle. They want an answer by Thanksgiving. That's next Thursday. I know. I've been putting it off because... Vivian trailed off, searching for words. Because of this. You and Luna. These last 2 weeks have been the first time in years I've felt like I'm living instead of just working. But you're still going to take it, Ethan said quietly. I don't know. That's the problem. 3 weeks ago, I knew exactly what I wanted. Now, I don't know anything. What do you want me to say? I don't know that either. Vivian looked frustrated with herself. I'm sorry. This isn't fair to you. Life's not fair. If it was, I wouldn't be a widowed single father, and you wouldn't have to choose between a career and whatever this is. What is this? Ethan looked back at his car, where Luna was watching them through the window. I don't know, but I know I want to find out. Even if I leave? Even if you leave?
Vivian's eyes went bright. That's a terrible plan. I'm aware. We barely know each other. So let's know each other. You have a week before you need to decide, right? Spend it with us. All of it. Every day. And then make your choice knowing what you're choosing between. Ethan, I'm not asking you to stay. I'm just asking you to give us, a real chance before you go. Vivian was quiet for a long moment. Then she nodded. Okay. Okay? 1 week, every day, and then I decide. They stood there in the parking lot while the sky darkened around them, both of them acutely aware they'd just agreed to something that could end in disaster. I should go, Vivian finally said. Yeah. But neither of them moved. Vivian leaned forward and kissed his cheek, quick and soft and over before Ethan could react. Good night, Ethan. Good night. She got in her car and drove away. Ethan walked back to his own car in a daze. Luna was grinning at him through the window. She kissed you. It was just on the cheek. Still counts. Ethan started the car and pulled out of the parking lot, his cheek still tingling where Vivian's lips had touched. 1 week. 7 days to figure out if what they had was real or just two lonely people desperately grabbing at connection. 7 days before Vivian made the choice that would determine both their futures. Ethan drove home through the dark streets, Luna chattering in the back seat about starfish and pizza and how she'd been right all along, and tried not to think about how much it would hurt when this inevitably fell apart. But somewhere deep inside, underneath all the fear and doubt and certainty that he was setting himself up for heartbreak, a small voice whispered that maybe, just maybe, Luna had been right about this too. The week passed like water through fingers, impossible to hold but impossible to forget. Vivian showed up Monday morning at Ethan's apartment with coffee and bagels, looking nervous in jeans and a sweater that probably still cost more than Ethan's monthly grocery budget, but at least didn't scream billionaire CEO. Luna answered the door in her pajamas and immediately declared it the best Monday ever. They spent the day doing nothing remarkable. Walked to the park, got lunch at a sandwich shop where the owner knew Ethan by name, played board games on the living room floor while rain hammered against the windows. Vivian lost at Candyland 3 times in a row and didn't seem to mind. Tuesday, Vivian picked Luna up from school herself. Ethan got a text from the school secretary. Is Ms. Hart authorized to pick up Luna? She's driving a very expensive car and Luna is very excited. Ethan typed back, yes, she's authorized. Sorry for not calling ahead. They showed up at his office an hour later with pizza and proceeded to have an impromptu picnic in the conference room because Ethan's manager was out sick and nobody was using it. Jason walked past, saw them through the glass wall, and gave Ethan a thumbs up so enthusiastic it bordered on obscene. Wednesday was the aquarium again because Luna insisted Vivian needed to see the jellyfish exhibit she'd missed on Friday. They spent 2 hours watching jellyfish pulse through dark water like ghosts, and Vivian admitted she found them kind of terrifying and kind of beautiful, which was exactly how Ethan felt about this entire situation. Thursday was Thanksgiving. Ethan woke up at 6 a.m. with his stomach in knots because today was the day Vivian had to give Seattle her answer, and also the day Michelle insisted on hosting Thanksgiving dinner and meeting the woman Ethan had apparently been spending every waking moment with. This is a terrible idea, Ethan told Luna while making breakfast. It's a great idea, Luna said around a mouthful of cereal. Your aunt is going to interrogate her. Aunt Michelle's nice. Aunt Michelle is protective. There's a difference. Luna shrugged, unconcerned, and went back to her cereal. Ethan's phone buzzed. Text from Vivian. Still okay if I come today? I can back out if it's too much. He typed, You're coming. Michelle would never forgive me if you didn't. What if she hates me? She won't hate you. She'll just ask very pointed questions about your intentions. That's somehow worse. Welcome to my family. They arrived at Michelle's house at 3 p.m. It was a small 2-story in the suburbs with a lawn that needed mowing and a porch swing that creaked when you sat on it. Michelle answered the door in an apron covered in cartoon turkeys, took one look at Vivian, and smiled in a way that made Ethan immediately nervous. You must be Vivian. I've heard so much about you. All good things, I hope, Vivian said, shaking Michelle's hand. Mostly good things. Come in, come in. David's in the kitchen pretending he knows how to baste a turkey. They followed Michelle inside. The house smelled like roasted meat and cinnamon and something burning that Michelle insisted was fine as she rushed toward the kitchen. David emerged a moment later, a tall guy with graying hair and an easy smile who shook Vivian's hand and told her not to worry. Michelle only seemed intimidating, but was actually a softie. "I heard that," Michelle called from the kitchen. "You were supposed to," David called back. Luna immediately dragged Vivian toward the living room to show her the collection of snow globes Michelle kept on a shelf. Ethan started to follow, but Michelle grabbed his arm. "Kitchen, now!" Ethan followed his sister into the kitchen, where a turkey that looked slightly overdone sat on the counter, surrounded by various dishes in varying states of completion. "She seems nice," Michelle said, stirring something in a pot. "She is nice. And very pretty. I'm aware. And completely wrong for you." Ethan felt his defenses rise. "You've known her for 3 minutes. I don't need longer. Ethan, she's a billionaire. She lives in a different world. What happens when she gets bored of playing house and goes back to her real life?" "That's not fair. It's realistic. I'm not trying to hurt you. I'm trying to protect you. See, I don't need protecting." Michelle set down her spoon and turned to face him fully. "You've spent 3 years barely surviving. You finally seem happy again. And I'm terrified you're about to get your heart broken by someone who's going to leave the second things get difficult." "You don't know that." "Don't I? She has a CEO offer in Seattle." "You really think she's going to turn that down for a guy she's known for 2 weeks?" Ethan didn't have an answer for that because he'd been thinking the same thing for days. Michelle's expression softened. "I'm sorry, I don't mean to be harsh. I just love you and I don't want to watch you fall apart again." "I'm not going to fall apart. You don't know that." "No," Ethan admitted, "but I'm doing it anyway." From the living room came Luna's laughter and Vivian's voice asking questions about each snow globe's origin story. Michelle listened for a moment, then sighed. "She's good with Luna." "Yeah, that's worth something." "Yeah." Michelle pulled Ethan into a hug that smelled like turkey and perfume. "Just be careful, okay?" "I will." They went back to the living room. Dinner was chaotic in the way family dinners always were. Too much food, too many conversations happening at once, Luna spilling cranberry sauce on her dress, and not caring because she was too busy telling David about the jellyfish. Vivian fit into it easier than Ethan expected. She asked David about his work as a physical therapist and actually listened to his answers. She helped Michelle carry dishes to the table without being asked. She complimented the turkey even though it was definitely overcooked. After dinner, while David and Michelle cleaned up the kitchen despite everyone's protests, Ethan and Vivian ended up on the porch swing with coffee while Luna played in the backyard. "Your family is nice," Vivian said. "Michelle was interrogating you." "I know, I didn't mind." "Really?" "Really. It means she cares about you." They sat in silence for a while, watching Luna chase leaves that the wind scattered across the lawn. The sun was setting, turning the sky orange and purple and gold. "I have to call Seattle tonight," Vivian said quietly. Ethan's stomach clenched. "I know. I've been avoiding thinking about it all day." "How's that working for you?" "Terribly." Luna had found a particularly large leaf and was running toward them with it held above her head like a flag. She presented it to Vivian with the solemnity of someone bestowing a great honor. "This is for you." Vivian accepted the leaf carefully. "It's beautiful. Thank you." "You're welcome. Can we have pie now?" "Ask your aunt," Ethan said. Luna ran back inside, leaving them alone again. Vivian turned the leaf over in her hands. "Can I tell you something?" "Always. This week has been the happiest I've been in years. Maybe ever." She paused. "But I keep waiting for it to feel wrong, like I'm playing pretend in someone else's life, and it doesn't. It feels more real than anything I've done in the last decade." Ethan's heart was hammering. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying I think I already know what I want to do about Seattle. I just don't know if I'm brave enough to do it." Before Ethan could respond, Michelle stuck her head out the door. "Pie's ready. You two coming?" They went inside. The pie was pumpkin and slightly burned around the edges, and Luna insisted on having whipped cream on every single bite. Vivian ate her slice slowly, like she was trying to memorize the taste. When it was time to leave, Michelle pulled Vivian aside while Ethan was getting Luna's coat.
He couldn't hear what they said, but when Vivian came back, her eyes were red and Michelle was smiling. "What did she say to you?" Ethan asked as they walked to their cars. "She said if I hurt you, she'd find me. And then she said she hoped I'd stay." "In that order?" "In that order." They reached Vivian's car. Luna was already buckled into Ethan's back seat, playing with the leaf Vivian had given back to her. "I should go home and make that call," Vivian said. "Yeah, I'll text you after. Please." Vivian looked like she wanted to say something else, but instead she just hugged him, tight and brief and desperate. Then she got in her car and drove away. Ethan drove home with his hand shaking on the wheel, and Luna asking why Vivian looked sad, and Ethan having no good answers. At home, he got Luna ready for bed early because he couldn't focus on anything else. She was asleep by 8 p.m., exhausted from the day's excitement. Ethan sat on the couch with his phone in his hand and waited. 9 p.m. came and went, then 10, then 11. At 11:47, his phone finally buzzed. Text from Vivian. "Can you meet me? Same park bench where Luna first pointed at me." Ethan's heart stopped. He called Michelle. "Can you come watch Luna? I know it's late, but I'm already in my car," Michelle said. "Be there in 15 minutes." She made it in 12. Ethan barely waited for her to get inside before he was running to his car, driving too fast through empty streets toward the park. The park was dark and empty. Ethan found the bench by memory, and Vivian was already there, sitting in the exact spot where Luna had first declared they should get married. She looked up when Ethan approached. Her face was wet with tears. "I said no," she whispered. Ethan sat down next to her, his whole body trembling. "To Seattle?" "To Seattle. To the corner office and the 7-figure salary and everything I thought I wanted." Fresh tears spilled down her cheeks. "I called them and said no, and then I sat in my apartment and realized I have no idea what I'm doing with my life." "Vivian." "I'm terrified, Ethan. I just walked away from everything I spent 15 years building. For what? For the possibility of something that might not even work? For a guy I've known for 2 weeks and his daughter who thinks she can predict the future?" "Yes," Ethan said simply. Vivian laughed through her tears. "That's insane. Completely insane. I don't even know if you want me to stay. I've been so focused on making the decision that I didn't ask what you wanted." "Tiki Batsaten." Ethan took her hands in his. They were freezing. "I want you to stay. I want you to stay so badly it scares me. Because I've spent 3 years protecting myself from feeling anything, and you walked into my life and broke through every defense I had. And I know it's fast, and I know it's crazy, and I know we barely know each other, but I want to know you, every part of you, for as long as you'll let me." Vivian was crying harder now. "What if I'm terrible at this, at relationships and staying in one place and being part of someone's life?" "Then you'll learn. We'll both learn. Together." "Well, what if I fail? Then we fail together." Ethan squeezed her hands. "Vivian, I lost someone I loved. I know how fragile this all is. And I'm choosing to do it anyway because avoiding pain isn't living. It's just existing. And I'm tired of just existing." Vivian pulled him into a kiss that tasted like salt and fear and hope. When they broke apart, she was smiling through her tears. "Luna's going to be so smug about this. She's going to be insufferable. I can't wait." They sat on the bench in the dark park where everything had started, holding each other while the city moved around them. And for the first time in years, both of them felt like they were exactly where they were supposed to be. The next 6 months weren't easy. Vivian moved into a smaller apartment 3 blocks from Ethan's building because her downtown penthouse felt too empty. She cut her work hours from 80 a week to 50, which her board of directors hated and which Vivian discovered she didn't care about. She started showing up at Luna's school events and learning to cook basic meals that didn't come from a corporate catering service. She burned spaghetti twice before getting it right. She forgot parent-teacher conference day and had to reschedule. She had moments where she missed the simplicity of her old life, the clear metrics of success, the straightforward goals, the lack of emotional complications. But then she'd come home to find Ethan and Luna having a dance party in the living room to terrible pop music, and Luna would grab her hand and pull her into the chaos, and Vivian would realize she'd never been happier in her entire life. Ethan quit his job in March. just walked into his manager's office and gave 2 weeks' notice with no plan, except that he couldn't spend one more day analyzing insurance spreadsheets. It was terrifying and irresponsible, and Vivian told him she was proud of him for doing it. He spent a month panicking about money before landing a position at a nonprofit that paid less but let him leave at 5 p.m. every day and actually believe his work mattered. Michelle said he looked 10 years younger. Luna said he smiled more. Vivian said he'd stopped having that hunted look in his eyes. They had their first real fight in April over something stupid. Ethan forgot to tell Vivian about Luna's dance recital, and she'd scheduled a board meeting for the same time. They yelled at each other in his kitchen while Luna watched cartoons in the other room, both of them too scared to admit the fight was really about whether Vivian could actually do this, whether she could really stay. "I'm here, aren't I?" Vivian shouted. "I turned down Seattle. I restructured my entire life. What more do you want?" "I want you to stop treating this like an obligation," Ethan shouted back. "I want you to be here because you want to be, not because you feel like you have to prove something." "I do want to be here." "Then act like it." They stared at each other across the kitchen, both breathing hard. "I'm scared," Vivian finally said, her voice breaking. "I'm scared I'm going to mess this up, that I'm going to choose wrong and hurt you and Luna and ruin the best thing that's ever happened to me." Ethan's anger deflated. He crossed the kitchen and pulled her into his arms. "You're not going to mess it up. You don't know that." "No, but I believe it anyway." They went to the dance recital together. Luna performed a routine to a song about butterflies and forgot half the steps and was absolutely delighted with herself. Vivian recorded the whole thing on her phone and made it her wallpaper. In June, Vivian bought the apartment building where Ethan and Luna lived. She did it quietly, through an LLC, and only told Ethan after the sale went through. "You did what?" he asked, stunned. "Bought your building. The landlord was planning to sell it to developers who were going to raise the rent and force everyone out. So I bought it instead." "Vivian, you can't just—" "I already did. And before you get mad, I'm not changing anything. Same rent, same lease terms. I just made sure you and Luna wouldn't have to move." Ethan stared at her, overwhelmed. "That's too much?" "I know. But I couldn't stand the thought of you losing your home. This place is where Luna grew up, where you and Sarah built your life. I couldn't let that disappear." Ethan kissed her instead of finishing his sentence. Because what do you say to someone who understands that home isn't about the building, it's about the memories inside it? They got engaged in October on the same park bench where everything had started. Ethan had planned an elaborate proposal involving a restaurant reservation and a hired photographer and a carefully rehearsed speech. Instead, they were sitting on the bench eating ice cream while Luna played on the swings, and Vivian said, "I want to marry you." Ethan nearly dropped his ice cream. "What, ma?" Nearly chatting. "I want to marry you. I've been thinking about it for months, and I was going to wait for you to ask because that felt like the right way to do it. But I've spent my whole life waiting for other people to make decisions for me, so I'm making this one. Marry me, Ethan Cole." Ethan started laughing. "I was literally going to propose to you next week. I have a ring and everything." "You do?" He pulled the ring box from his jacket pocket. "I've been carrying it around for 3 days, trying to find the perfect moment." Vivian's eyes went wide. "Are you serious?" "Completely serious." They both started laughing and then crying, and then Luna noticed something was happening and ran over demanding to know what was going on. "We're getting married," Ethan said. Luna's response was immediate and smug. "I told you." "Yes," Ethan said. "You absolutely did." Us. They got married in December in Michelle's backyard with 30 people in a ceremony so short the officiant apologized for not making it longer. Luna served as flower girl and declared it the best day of her entire life, which was impressive considering she'd only lived 6 years. Vivian wore a simple white dress instead of the elaborate gown her mother had tried to insist on. Ethan wore the blue shirt Jason had made him buy almost a year ago. They wrote their own vows, which made everyone cry, including the officiant. "I spent my whole life running," Vivian said, her voice shaking. "Running from attachment, from vulnerability, from anything that might slow me down or hold me back. And then a 5-year-old pointed at me in a park and decided I belonged in her life. And her father looked at me and saw past every defense I'd built. And for the first time ever, I stopped running. Because you two aren't holding me back. You're the only thing that's ever made me feel free." Ethan's vows were simpler. "I thought I was done loving, done hoping, done believing I deserved happiness. And then you walked past me without looking back, and my daughter saw something I couldn't. She saw that you were just as lost and lonely as I was, and she decided we should find each other. And she was right. She was right about everything. So this is me promising to spend the rest of my life proving her right." They kissed while everyone cheered. Luna shouted, "I knew it," loud enough that the neighbors probably heard. The reception was cake and champagne and terrible dancing and everything a wedding should be. Vivian's mother pulled Ethan aside at one point and told him she'd never seen her daughter this happy. Michelle hugged Vivian so hard she nearly broke a rib and whispered, "Thank you for staying." That night, standing in their bedroom in the apartment building Vivian now owned, Ethan watched his wife, brush her hair in the mirror and felt something settle in his chest that had been restless for 3 years. "What?" Vivian asked, catching his eye in the reflection. "Just thinking. About how Luna saw you before I did. About how you chose us. Thought." Vivian set down her brush and turned to face him. "I didn't choose you over Seattle. I chose you because Seattle was never going to make me happy. Success was never going to make me happy. I built this whole life around being powerful and independent and not needing anyone. And it was empty. Every single achievement felt hollow because there was nobody to share it with. And now? Now I come home to you and Luna fighting over which movie to watch. I burn dinner and laugh about it instead of ordering from a restaurant. I go to school plays and parent-teacher conferences and birthday parties for kids whose names I can barely remember. And I've never been happier." She crossed to him and took his hands. "You taught me that avoiding pain isn't the same as living, that staying somewhere, building something with people you love, that's the bravest thing anyone can do." Ethan pulled her close. "Luna taught us both that." "Yeah, she did." They stood there in their bedroom while the city glowed outside their window. Two people who'd spent years running from different things finally finding the courage to stay in one place. The truth was, neither of them were perfect. Vivian still worked too much sometimes. Ethan still had days where the grief of losing Sarah hit him like a physical thing. They fought about stupid things like whose turn it was to do laundry, and serious things like how to handle Luna's increasingly unsettling predictions about the future. But they were building something together. Not the perfect life, but a real one, full of burned dinners and terrible dance recitals and moments of absolute joy mixed in with the mundane difficulty of just existing. And every Sunday, they went to the same park where Luna had first pointed at a stranger and declared with absolute certainty that her father should marry her. They'd sit on the same bench and watch Luna play, and sometimes Vivian would ask Ethan if he ever regretted saying yes to that first coffee. "Never," he'd say. "Not once. Even when I'm being difficult? Especially when you're being difficult." And Vivian would laugh and rest her head on his shoulder, and they'd watch their daughter chase pigeons with the same determined focus she brought to everything. And they'd understand what Luna had seen that day in the park before either of them could see it themselves. Sometimes the bravest thing you can do isn't achieving something extraordinary. It's choosing to stay when every instinct tells you to run. It's letting people see you, really see you, even when you're terrified they won't like what they find. It's believing that building a life with someone is worth more than any corner office or 7-figure salary. It's understanding that love isn't about finding someone perfect. It's about finding someone who makes you want to be brave enough to try. Luna had known that all along. She'd looked at two broken people and seen what they could become if they just had the courage to stop running. And she'd been right. She was always right.